binding? Yes, what is binding? Binding क्या होता है? What is binding? Whenever there is a function call, okay, you relate that function call with a specific function definition, because whenever there is a function call, you need to, the control has to be jumped to that function definition wherever that function is defined. Okay, so when function call is there, you relate that function call with specific function definition. That is, you bind a function call. Binding is nothing but to bind a function call with specific function definition. Okay, function call to function definition or object also. कुठल्या तरी specific object ला ते bind करायचं. So for specific function call where the control has to be transferred, to which definition that control has to go. Okay, so that binding, that process is called as binding. Binding a function call with specific function definition or object. So if this binding happens at compile time, okay, that is when your exe is getting generated. So if this binding happens during compile time, then it is called as compile time or static binding or polymorphism. One more word is there, that is early binding. Okay, early binding. Generally, early word is used with binding, not with polymorphism. It is used with this. So early binding. So early binding matlab it happens, that binding happens at compile time. So it is called as early binding. And when it is late binding is what? This function call gets bind with function definition at runtime. Then it is called as late binding. मतलब आपका compilation हो गया, exe is already ready, and at runtime the compiler is taking the decision for a specific function call, which function to be actually called, where the control has to be transferred. Okay, to which function definition that function call is related, that binding happens at runtime, then it is called as late binding. मतलब exe आपका रेडी भी हो जाता है और कंपाइलर को पता नहीं है कि इस फंक्शन कॉल के लिए, सपोज आई एम कॉलिंग वन स्पेसिफिक फंक्शन, दिस इज फंक्शन कॉल in main program. Okay, so for this function, which function to be called, actually there are multiple display function in different classes. Okay, so which display function to be called, the compiler, if the compiler knows in advance at the time of compilation, then it is called as compile time polymorphism. If the compiler does not know and it is resolved at runtime, then it is called as runtime polymorphism. Okay, so these polymorphisms are actually related with what? Binding. If it is early binding, it is this, and if it is late binding, then it is this type of polymorphism. Okay, now I hope I have revised also, so now I hope everything is clear now, right? So we have already discussed. Any doubt here? No? Okay. So this part we have discussed yesterday, so quick brushing up on that. And function overloading part also we discussed. Function overloading is what? Same function name we are adding at multiple places. Okay, and then to which function actually to be called, that is resolved, how it is resolved, that function overloading concept we have already discussed last time. Okay, 2-3 lectures we have conducted on that, and also practice also. Yesterday also in PBL I have given you practice assignment for that. Okay, so today let us start with operator overloading. Okay, but before I start, because yesterday I have given you one practice assignment, that is I'll open that practice assignment because that is important actually in order to start the next topic. Just a moment. Before we start with operator overloading, I want you to understand this particular problem statement properly. Okay, first one is based on function. First, this is based on function overloading, but whereas in this case, I also explained this to you yesterday. Okay, when I took the attendance, I explained this to you. So the same code I am referring here. Okay, Here what we are trying to do is swapping to date object. Okay, so quick revision on this because this is important example before we start with operator overloading. So here I want to swap, the problem statement is to swap to date object. Okay, so how to declare the date object or date class? So for that I have declared the class date, in which day, month and year, three members would be there. Okay, then I want to swap these two. I want to swap two dates. Okay. So here in main program, what I'll do is main function, I'll create two objects of date. Okay. Because I want to swap them. Okay. You can have a constructor to assign all the values, and that part I told you to complete that part to how to assign these values, and dd, mm and yy. So either you can have a constructor for that. If you are having a constructor, what you will do, how to call this? Suppose date is 1st January 2020, say for example. Okay, this is the date. So this is how you will pass while creating object. And maybe another date is 2 similar as 2 to 2021. Huh? So these are the two date objects. Okay, I should have a constructor now. How to declare a constructor here for a date for this type of assignment? Yes, quick. Yes, you can help me. Date int a comma int b comma int c, and then
dd equal
right, dd equal to what?
a,
Correct. Then
mm equal to b,
right, mm equal to b, and finally
y.
yes, perfect. So this is how we write the constructor. The constructor zala, so it is all these two objects are initialized now. Now I want to swap it. Swap matlab this values to be stored here and these value to be stored in D2 object. I want to swap everything like DD, this DD to be replaced by this month to be replaced by this. Swapping should happen at every stage. So for swapping, I need to write a program. So D1, see this program, this function I'm writing in that date object, date class. So when I'm writing any function inside any class, I need to call that function on specific object, right? Right or wrong?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, no? If I'm calling some function, this swap function I'm supposed to declare in which class? Date class. So if I have to call this function, okay, I'll rewrite it. Okay, so if I need to call swap function, can I call it simply like this? Swap? No. I need to call on some object of date object. So suppose I call it on D1 object. Okay. So now with D1, which two object I want to swap? I need to swap D1 comma D2. These are the two objects that I need to swap. Correct? D1, D2 object I need to swap. Okay. So this is the input to this swap function, D1, D2 object. I need to swap them. So now here the question arises, like here, if I'm calling this swap function on D1 object, okay. So if I'm calling it on D1 object, implicitly this D1 object is available to swap. I'm calling this swap function on which object? D1. So D1 is an implicit object there. It is already available because I'm calling this function on D1. So is it required to pass D1 object here now?
No, ma'am.
No, because already I am calling it on D1. So I need not pass it explicitly because already I am calling this function on D1. This is very important. आता पुढचा जो टॉपिक आपण डिस्कस करणार आहे याच्यासाठी हे दिस इज व्हेरी इम्पॉर्टेंट. मेक श्योर दैट दिस कॉन्सेप्ट इज क्लियर टू यू. 100% आपको क्लियर होना चाहिए. Why I am not passing D1 here? This is very important. Why not passing this D1 here? Can anybody answer this? Why this D1 is not I am not passing this D1 object as input parameter. Though I want to swap D1 and D2. Ideally, this swapping matlab kya hai? Like normal with normal variables also. Suppose integer variables are there. What should be the input? I and j, because I need to pass two input values in order to swap them. For integer, any type of value, I need to pass two values. But here, I'm not passing two values here. I'm not passing d1. What is the reason behind it?
Because we have called it.
Yes,
Because
because, right,
hmm,
right.
from
Because
day
we call this swap function on d1, right? Okay. So that is the reason explicitly I need not pass d1 object here, because implicitly that object is available. Implicit and explicit, I'm using these words. I'm not explicitly passing d1. I'm not explicitly passing d1 here because it is implicitly available to swap. Make it clear. I'm giving 1 minute to digest this. Is it clear to everyone?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes? Okay, okay, good. So now let us define this function, swap function. So
Yes,
in
ma'am.
swap, yesterday we discussed this for two batches, okay? But let us discuss this part. Only I am interested in this part. This will rewrite. So this swap function, how to write this, how to define this swap function? Now tell me. Now we together will define it. Swapping should happen between two values. Okay. So what is the input? Tell me.
D2.
Date,
Date D2.
date, and D2. Because here to this swap function, we are taking object as D2. What is the data type of D2? The
Date.
data type is date. Okay. So here I'm taking date object as input and D2 only. Okay. What should be the return type of swap?
Void.
void.
Why? Why?
Because it is not returning anything, it is just changing the values.
It is swapping the values. Okay. See, one function can return how many values back?
Only
One.
one.
Only one, right? Okay. But here, how many values you are changing? Are you changing only just one value?
No, 3.
Three, but inside that D1 object and D2 object. But at superficial level, what you can say that you are swapping D1 and D2. So changes will happen in how many object? Two object. Both the object change will happen, right? सगळ्या ज्या D2 च्या व्हॅल्यू त्या D1 मध्ये जातील and D1 च्या व्हॅल्यूज D2 मध्ये जातील. So we are changing both the object. So my question is, can this function return two values back? Because I've changed two value. The values I change in my function, all the values I need to return back. The rule is like that. And a rule, what rule says about function? If I'm changing, suppose addition function is there. So what do you do in addition function? You take two inputs, okay? You add them and you return that result back, because in addition function, you haven't changed those input value A and B. What you have changed is result. Result is equal to A plus B. So you change result, so you need to return result. Okay, whatever you change in the function, if you want it back in the main program, you need to return it. But here I'm changing two values. So is there any way to return two values back to main program?
No.
एक function दोन values return नहीं करू शकत. Basic rule is one function cannot return multiple values back. Register this thing. Okay, so if one function cannot return, but I'm changing two values here. So what is the solution to this problem?
Call by reference.
Perfect. Call by address or call by reference. In C language, only call by address was there, which was the solution for this problem. In C++, we have discussed already that again, for this situation, two ways are there. It is either call by reference or call by address. Okay, in any of the methods you can use. Okay, how to define, how to write, that part we have already discussed. Yes. So here either I have to use call by reference concept or call by address. Okay, generally call by reference is very easy way of doing it, so I'll use call by reference. Okay, and call by address, you are already familiar in C language, like you need to pass the address, you need to collect it in pointer and ते सगळं करायचं, right? So here we'll use call by reference concept. in order to resolve this. Okay, so in such situation, we do not return any value from the function. We directly make the change in that particular variable, but we don't return any value. Okay, call by address or call by reference, if you can recall those program in C language or C++ also we have practiced initially. So we do not return any value because function anyway cannot return multiple values. Okay, so straight away function return type would remain void. So that is the reason the return type should be void, because anyway it cannot return multiple values. Now the next question is, we decided to use call by reference here. Okay, so how to make it call by reference? By simply adding reference operator here. फक्त इथे ते ampersand add करायचं, which is called as reference operator. In C++, it is little bit different. You need to notice this reference operator specifically we have discussed. Okay, already we discussed about this reference operator. So this function is called by reference. Okay, because all the changes I need to reflect back in main program. So that's the reason I'm making it call by reference. Okay, this is important change that you need to do here. Now swapping, you know how to swap. Integer एक variable घेतलं, integer swap temp. In temp, I'm copying this dd. Now this dd belongs to which object?
D1.
D1. Have I mentioned any object here?
No.
No.
No. Why not? Why?
It will consider dd as d1.dd.
Right. Because this function, you need to notice this thing, that swap function I'm calling on which object? D1 object. So D1 object is a implicit object. उसका meaning क्या है? Implicit object का meaning ये है कि to this swap function D1 is directly available. Swap function, you need not pass it as input parameter. To this swap function, D1 is directly available without mentioning D1.dd. It is implicit object there. So whatever changes you make in swap on this D1, it is automatically reflected back in D1. म्हणजे जे चेंजेस तुम्ही स्वॅप मध्ये करताय फॉर दिस D1 ऑब्जेक्ट, all those changes will be reflected in D1. You need not return it back. Already those changes will happen in D1. Okay, so here whenever D1 is an implicit object, so that is the reason I don't mention it. Okay, one more concept related to implicit object, it is referred in this manner, this dot dd, and your this pointer is pointing to D1. Actually how it happens, whenever you call this D1 swap function on D1, what happens internally? Compiler just say this to point to D1. If I'm calling this swap function on D1, there is a this pointer. This guy है एक pointer है. Okay, it is a pointer, and this pointer is pointing to which object now? D1, because your swap function is called on D1. Okay, and this is what? It is a pointer. So whatever changes you make in D1, all are reflected back in main. What is the reason behind it? Because this is a pointer and it is pointing to D1, and with the pointer whatever changes you make, it is automatically reflected back in main. Pointer मध्ये change केला की तो directly main ला येतो. So can we say that for a D1 it is called by address? Indirectly. Do you get this concept? Whenever I'm calling any function on any object, what happens internally? This pointer will start pointing to D1 object. So now whatever changes you make with this pointer, all will be reflected in D1. Yeah, this pointer जे changes होतील ते automatically D1 मध्ये येणार. Okay, so now with this reference, now with this, I'll just copy it here. So what we have understood, that whenever there is a swap a function call on D1, this pointer will start pointing to D1. Okay, now this function is called, okay, swap, and the implicit object, that is D1, this pointer is pointing to D1. So when you do not mention any object for this DD, MM and YY, these are the member data. Okay, so I don't mention anything here. So implicit meaning of this is what? This dot dd, or here also it is this dot dd, and here it is temp only. Okay, so when in front of dd, if I don't mention anything, implicitly the compiler is saying this dot dd. Now where this pointer is pointing to? D1. So actually this is nothing but what? D1. Now is it clear?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes. So I'm calling this function on D1. That means what? Your this pointer, internal pointer, apan nahi declare kara. This pointer will start pointing to D1 object. Okay. And compiler, what compiler does? How we are writing this program in this manner. Actually, we are simply saying DD. But internally, what happens? Whenever there is no object, compiler considers this object here. Sorry, this object here. Whenever there is no object for these variable ddmm yy variable, no object, so what compiler does, it implicitly takes this pointer, and this pointer is pointing to d1. Matlab now this is nothing but d1 dot dd. Is it clear to everyone?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes.
Okay, so now we used to write it in this manner. We need not mention this, automatically it takes. तुम्हाला जर करायचंच आहे, if you want, you are happy with this, you can do it, but generally it is difficult, so generally we don't use it in that manner. ते option आहे, म्हणजे optional आहे. You may use this or you cannot. If you are not happy with that, don't use it. That is okay, because compiler automatically converts it. Compiler ते करून घेतो automatically. So now what we are doing is we have declared one integer variable temp. एक temp variable घेतलं, त्याच्यात d1.dd we have copied. d1.dd. Now d1.dd is free. So in d1.dd I'll copy d2.dd swapping function, and now d2.dd is free. So in that case we'll copy this temp. Swapping चा कोड येतो ना सगळ्यांना?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes. Anybody want me to explain swapping code? It is absolutely fine. You can ask. That's okay. Ki nahi kadate tar you feel free to ask question. Don't worry about it. I'll explain it again. Because swapping is an important function actually. We use it many times. Clear hai swapping functions again na? Okay. So so same thing, this swapping code now has to be done with which variable now? Till now we have swapped only dd for these two objects, है ना? फक्त dd swap केले. Similarly, you need to swap mm, and similarly you need to swap yy also. So same code for mm and yy here. Okay. So here you will add the code for mm, same code. काहीच फरक नाही आहे. Same code you need to add for mm and yy for swapping purpose. Okay. And like when we are using this reference, call by reference, we have already seen that we did not mention here in any pointer or like that. Call by address and call by reference, that difference we have seen. Call by reference म्हणजे just add this ampersand over here. Otherwise no change. So compiler will understand whatever changes I'm making in D1, D2, sorry, it has to be reflected back in main. Call by reference, recall that concept. Okay. So here I will not return any value, no return statement here. Okay, no return statement, because whatever changes I'm making, I'm making changes at two places. कुठले दोन object? I'm making one change at this, okay, in this pointer, and another change I'm making in D2 object. Okay, D2. So two things I'm changing, and your this pointer is pointing to D1 implicit. Okay, so this pointer is pointing to D1. So now if this and this is what? It is a pointer. Okay, so now should I have a return statement here? Is it required?
No.
Why not? Because D1 you are making changes in this pointer. म्हणजे हे काय झालं, pointer मध्ये change. Whenever we are changing pointer, making any change in the pointer, it is reflected back in main. You need not return that value. And what about D2? Should I return value D2 back to main function? Again, answer is yes. No, because D2 also I'm passing by reference. So I'm changing two values, but still I'm not returning anything. The reason is that for D1 your this pointer is there. Okay, so automatically pointer मध्ये जे changes होतील ते automatically main मध्ये होणार. So I need not return D1. And for D2 I'm making it by reference. So whatever changes are done in D2 automatically it is returned back to main. I should not have a return statement for that. That's the reason there is no return statement, and that's the reason return type is void. Now is it clear to everyone? This is very important concept. Clear hai sagyana?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, good. Now coming back to our discussion on operator overloading. Okay. So operator overloading also, this concept is important. I told you that's the reason in detail I discussed that example. Okay. So what is operator overloading? First, let us discuss why we need operator overloading, right? So first reason, C++ tries to treat user-defined data type in the same way as built-in data type. So what is the meaning of that? Let us understand. What C++ wants, that the way you treat to built-in data type, the same treatment should be given to user-defined data type. Okay? आता याचा अर्थ काय? So suppose I'm declaring A, B, C. Okay? So I'll say A plus B. Is it possible with built-in data type?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes. So now suppose I have one class. I have one class and like numbers I'm declaring inside this class. Okay. So I'm saying some int I. Okay. असं काहीतरी class आहे. Some class is there. Okay. So my question is now, I'm declaring this num. Num is the name of the class. Okay. So for this, I'm creating two objects, O1 object and O2 object. Okay. And also O3. So now, is it possible?
No.
No, not possible. What is the reason behind it? Because these are the user-defined objects. Built-in आहेत का हे? No, these are not built-in variables. Built-in means what? Integer, float, char. So these are, or double maybe. So these are built-in data types. So with built-in data type, you can use operator in this manner. But these are what user-defined data types: structures, unions, enumerators, object. Class मध्ये हे object है. So all these are user-defined data type. है कि नहीं? Right? Structures, union, enumerator, and object. These are user-defined data type. So with user-defined data type, directly you can't say this. In C language, have you ever done this? Ki structure che तीन object like you are adding in this manner.
No.
Suppose no, na. So with structure also it is not possible. Similarly with object also it is not possible because these are user-defined data type. But in the real world, how do we say that I'm adding O1 and O2 and I store it in O3? So in the real world, we use the language in this manner only. असंच लिहितो ना आपण इक्वेशन मॅथ्स मध्ये पण, right? Then why programming language expects you to do something? So in programming language, if I have to do this, how to do it? Bola. In programming language, if I have to add user-defined data types, how to do it? Chalo, quick. I need to call some function, some add function. Huh?
Yes, ma'am.
How to call this add function?
O3 dot add
Huh,
one.
right. Either O1 dot or some object is required. Okay, some object is required. So we have to add O1 and O2. We have to add O1 and O2. So O1 I can pass implicitly, okay, and O2 I can pass explicitly, right now. So O1 implicitly I'm passing, so I'm calling this function on O1, okay, and I'm passing this O2 as input parameter. झालं असं होऊ शकतं? Is it possible in this manner? Everyone, yes, I'm asking this question.
Yes, ma'am.
Multiple मला आवाज आले तरी चालतील. Is it clear to everyone?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes? Okay. So in programming language, when we have to add user-defined data type, we need to add it in this manner. Just now we have discussed example of swapping function also. So likewise, you relate it with this addition function. Okay. So I cannot use, this is invalid. Hai na? This is invalid. This is invalid. So how to do it in programming language? It has to be done in this manner. Okay. But initially, if you remember, what I told you is object-oriented languages try to implement real-world features as it is, and a real-world application as it is. So, in real world, do we use it in this manner? Do we? Yes or no? No? How do we use it in real world? This way?
Yes,
This
ma'am.
way, right now? This is familiar to you. This we in real world we don't use it in this manner. For addition, subtraction, all operators we use it in this manner. Okay. So now for this we have to, like, if this support we want to give, it is possible with the help of operator overloading. To resolve this situation problem काय कळलं का प्रॉब्लेम कळलं तर सोल्युशन कडे जायचं यू नीड टू अंडरस्टँड प्रॉब्लेम फर्स्ट what is the problem that I want to represent my equation in this manner because I'm real world I use it in this manner, so I want to represent it in this manner, but my compiler or my programming language tells me to write it in this manner. Can you write this program? हा लिहू शकता तुम्ही program? Yes, addition of two objects you can write, right? But what I'm telling you, I don't want to call this function in this manner. O1 dot add वगैरे असं नाही call करायचं. I need to call this in this manner. I can have a function for addition. I have to write this function, but I will not call that function in this manner. I'm not happy with this. The real world representation is this because a built-in data type also I use it in this manner. Is it clear? Problem काय है? Not happy with this.
Yes, ma'am.
है ना? Not happy. Straight away I'm saying because I'm not using it in this manner in real world, right? Or you can say not a real world approach. Okay. So now what I want is I want to call this function in this manner. Okay. So for that we should have operator overloading. This particular thing is possible with the help of operator overloading. Operator overloading will give you a facility to treat user defined data types in a similar way the built-in data types are treated. I'm reiterating this sentence. Operator overloading gives you a facility to treat the user-defined data type. O1, O3 are user-defined data type. So treat user-defined data type in a similar way the built-in data types are treated. Okay. With user-defined data type, I have to do it in this manner. But I'm not happy with that. I want to do it in the similar manner, the way I do it for built-in data type. So this is my problem. And that's the reason operator overloading concept I need to study in order to implement this particular thing. So this is the necessity or this is the need why I need to study operator overloading. Okay. So first thing we have understood that C++ tries to treat user defined data type in the same way as built-in data type. म्हणजे युजर डिफाईन डेटा टाईपला पण सेम मिनिंग द्यायचं, सेम मेथड द्यायची जशी आपण बिल्ट इन डेटा टाईपला वापरतो. Okay, that is first thing. Second is, now while doing it, semantics of an operator can be extended, but syntax cannot be changed. Semantics you can change. म्हणजे see, semantics is what, like this I'm using for adding two integer number, this I'm using to add two user defined variables. Okay, user defined data types, that is okay, but addition is supposed to do addition only inside that function. म्हणजे त्याचं सी सिमॅन्टिक्स यू कॅन चेंज, की सिमॅन्टिक म्हणजे this function, this particular thing I'm using for integer, this particular thing I'm using for user defined data type. So semantic wise it is different, but syntax wise it cannot change. Syntax associated with operator is what? It's precedence, associativity, number of operands. For addition you need two number of operands, so here also I'm giving two number of operand, here also I'm giving two number of operand. So syntax wise I need to follow it as it is. Syntax मध्ये चेंज नाही होणार. ओके, चेंज विल हॅपन इन सिमॅन्टिक, म्हणजे त्याच्या मिनिंग मध्ये. सिमॅन्टिक इज द मिनिंग. सो सिमॅन्टिक्स यू कॅन चेंज, बट सिंटॅक्स यू कॅनॉट चेंज. इफ इट नीड टू ऑपरंट, तो यू हॅव टू गिव्ह टू ऑपरंट्स टू दॅट. ओके, it has got its associativity and precedence, operator precedence or priority. I hope you understand. Yes, if subtraction or multiplication is also there, like I into j plus e. So if the equation is like this, first priority is given to multiplication, second priority is given to addition. So this is priority or operator precedence. So all these rules are applicable to operator overloading also, right? Okay, so syntax you cannot change, but semantic meaning you can change. Okay, now it is giving spatial meaning to operator. Okay, we are giving spatial meaning to this operator. Must be declared in public part, like constructor destructor also declared in public part. So here also operator overloading, all function need to be declared in which part? Public part. So that is the rule. Can be implemented using member or friend function. Yes, this is very important part. You can implement operator overloading function using two ways. One is with member. It can be a simply member function of that class, or it can be a friend function. Both ways are possible. Okay, either you can use member function for operator overloading or friend function. Okay, any of this method is possible. Now there are some rules, like following operators cannot be overloaded, like class membership, member access, that dot, using dot we can access the members of the class. Then this also pointer, if pointer member is there, in that case we access it in this manner. Scope resolution or class resolution operator also. Size of operator, conditional operator. So these are some operator. You can go through books also, okay, for this list. So detailed list you will get in the books also. So these are few operators which you cannot overload. Okay, so even if you try, compiler will give you error for these operators. And as I told you, there are two ways for operator overloading, either member function or friend function. So with friend functions specifically, these operator cannot be overloaded. Okay, so these operator can be overloaded with member function, but not with friend function. Okay, and for these operator cannot be overloaded in either way. Okay, not with member or not with friend function. Okay, so these operator cannot be overloaded at all, and these can be overloaded with member but not with friend function. Okay, so this also you need to register. Okay, which operators cannot be overloaded. You should be able to answer this type of questions. Okay, you try to memorize this, all these things. Okay, because in interviews also this type of questions can be asked. कुठले ऑपरेटर ओव्हरलोड होऊ शकतात, कुठले नाही. So these type of questions are also asked. Now, as I told you, we can overload the operator. So we generally have seen two operators, types of operators are there, unary and binary operators. ठीक है ना? So unary operator you can overload, and binary operators also you can overload. What is the time?
10:18.
So should we continue, because in detail I need to discuss this example. Okay, so tomorrow only we'll discuss this example in detail, because I need to म्हणजे अर्धवट नाही सोडू शकत आता. So okay, so any doubt in whatever we have discussed till now? Why operator overloading? See this why is very important. Before we start with any topic, you need to first understand its significance or relevance, why need to study it. Okay, so I hope that is very clear to everyone. Okay, I am not happy with this type of addition. Okay, calling this function in this manner. I want to do it in this manner, but my compiler says this is invalid. Okay, but I want to call it in this manner. So the solution for this is operator overloading. So if you implement it using operator overloading, then in that case this call will be a valid call. Okay, so is it clear to everyone?
Yes, ma'am.
And the example also, this example which I have shared with you, it's a close file, the practice example, date related to date also. Any doubts there? No? Okay, yes. So thank you everyone.
Thank you, ma'am.
So tomorrow we'll discuss this unary operator overloading part. Okay, so now maybe you can leave this classroom. In case any doubt, you can ask the doubt. Okay, so thank you everyone for attending. You can leave the classroom. Yes?
Thank you, ma'am.
Yes, thank you.